Guess what? The antibiotics work. The vaccines work. The medicine works, but they're charging you an arm and a leg for it. So the answer is to nationalize it. Get the profit motive out of it. By the same token, what you're talking about for the health insurance industry, same thing. The answer is to give us single-payer Medicare for all. Get the profit motive out of it.
Kulinski of Secular Talk was a guest on the Majority Report with Emma Vigeland to talk about healthcare and RFK Jr.'s involvement in the Trump administration and his quackery. We're going to take a look at clips from the Majority Report. I'm going to share my thoughts on this as well. Let's check this out together.
Let's play this short clip that Matt has up here.
It's RFK and Dave Smith, who helped commodify the libertarian movement to sell it to MAGA. Here he is asking RFK a relevant question. And this is the Maverick RFK giving you his straight answer, unafraid to speak the truth.
Do you have concerns about the level of Israeli influence in our politics here in the United States of America?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a politician in political office, so I don't see much of that.
Do you?
That was a Mitch McConnell pause.
Yeah, right. I thought the video froze for a second. Turns out, not as interested in Big Pharma. He'll talk until the cows come home about their influence on our politics. But Israel,
he doesn't want to nationalize.
Yeah, right.
Right. Right. No, instead, apparently one of his top legal advisors has advocated for the federal government to remove the polio approval, which...
Now, Trump has come out and said that that's not going to happen, and I can't imagine they would remove the polio vaccine. I mean, that would be absolute insanity. But RFK Jr. is pretty nuts. I doubt he's going to be able to implement a lot of the really kooky things that he wants to do, but we'll see.
We are basically people. Do you know what it was like before the polio vaccine? Children were dying all the time.
Yep.
Children were dying. People were getting paralyzed. If they survived, they were paralyzed. There was a president, a very famous president, who was afflicted with that condition as a child, FDR. It's insanity. It's insanity.
No, by the way, I don't know about you guys, but I'm convinced they got dirt on him. The Israelis have dirt.
Of course.
On RFK. There's no doubt about it. There was a lot of speculation from pretty credible sources that perhaps Jeffrey Epstein was linked to Mossad.
Yes.
Right? So,
well, we've said that on the show because Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was very obviously a part of Mossad. Like, I don't even think that's controversial to say. He had deep links with Israeli intelligence. And wasn't Menachem Begin on Epstein's plane?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what did he say? He said something like, I got so many skeletons in my closet that if they could vote, I'd win in a landslide. That's what RFK said. And it's like, geez, man, what are those skeletons? Remember when he was on Andrew Schultz's podcast and he was like, yeah, look, I mean, I hung out with everybody where I was living. We hung out with Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein. He goes down the list of like all the words. I'm surprised he didn't say Diddy on that list too. Maybe he did hang out with Diddy also. But like, yeah, I really think they have dirt on this man because it's so, I mean, he's just not anti-war too. That's the other point to make, right? Him and Tulsi, they virtue signal like they're anti-war. And they support the complete and utter obliteration and annihilation and slaughter of innocent Palestinian civilians and wiping Gaza off the map right in front of our faces. There's no world where you can say you're anti-war and you got the pom-poms and you're cheerleading this on. I mean, the guy's a total fraud. I don't even agree with people who think like, well, on health issues, I think he makes some points. And even Bernie said this, bless his heart, because Bernie's, he talks about the ultra-processed foods and all those issues. But again, the problem is RFK believes in junk science. He believes in alternative medicine. If he's right about anything, it is totally ancillary to his main project. And his main project is honestly, alternative medicine kookery. There's a reason why alternative medicine is called alternative medicine, because it didn't make the cut to be actual medicine. So these are the types of people who sell snake oil and all sorts of stuff that doesn't work. Just like Kash Patel, he was hawking some pill which like reverses the vaccine or something, he said. It's like, how are you guys so skeptical of every medicine that comes on the market, no matter how many double-blind, placebo-controlled studies are? That doesn't work. They're poisoning us. But then you turn around and some freak blogger in the Midwest, writes some preposterous thing about how pineapple shavings cure HIV, and you're like, we found the cure for HIV.
Well, first of all, I want to correct myself. It was Ehud Barak, not Begin. So on the plane, still an Israeli prime minister. But I think that's the problem, where now we can kind of tie it into the healthcare CEO killing. When the Democrats leave a vacuum on the issue of healthcare, it is filled by cranks and charlatans, as you say, who try to make your healthcare about your individual consumption choices. Right. When there's no concept of public health until you turn 65 and you get Medicare, what does your health become? It becomes individual choices. And we've now, with our corroded media environment and this online thing where it's difficult for people to determine, frankly, what's true and what's not, we have exacerbated that issue of when your individual healthcare choices are the totality of your the way that we're talking about healthcare.
And Emma Vigeland has a good point here, and this doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion, this idea of individual consumption. And you have the people, and there's some truth to this, that say, well, people need to take better care of themselves. You can't just eat whatever you want and drink all the time and smoke and not exercise and all of these kind of things. People have to have some responsibility in it. And yes, people should exercise more. I mean, we all probably should be exercising more and eating more healthy, even though it's hard to know what you should eat when we have so many different diets and information being thrown at us. And, this year eggs are good for you and next year eggs are bad for you. And, only eat meat, never eat carbs, or only eat carbs, don't eat meat. It's hard for people to know what to do. But the healthiest person in the world who never drinks and never smokes and lifts weights and does cardio all the time and is just a physical specimen could be in a car accident, or they could fall and hit their head. And then you're going to need to go to the hospital. And even with insurance, you might have a gigantic bill. Or a super healthy person, God forbid, can get cancer or have some kind of heart condition that's congenital, which they were born with and they never knew they had it. And they do all the right things and they still have to be put on some kind of expensive medication. This was years ago, but Sylvester Stallone, who I'm sure most people would say, oh, yeah, there's a guy who did things right. He was always super fit and he worked out all the time. And as far as I know, he didn't really drink alcohol a lot and he wasn't known to be a smoker or do drugs or anything like that. He was working out and completely ripped a chest muscle and, had to go and have emergency surgery for that. Now, he would have had plenty of money to pay for that, but a regular person could have exactly the same thing happen to them. And in the United States, even with insurance, that might cost them a fortune. Whereas in another country, that would be covered by their tax dollars. Our system is absolutely insane.
Creates an opportunity for people who are going to rip people off with these kooky treatments.
Yeah.
And I think it's also when the health insurers and the healthcare system is so mistrusted, rightly so, and exploitative, an alternative that you can buy on the internet or you hear a guy on Joe Rogan talking about it, that is more appealing to people because there's no concept of public health, which was also eroded in the pandemic.
That's right. That's right. I mean, these people have gone from being anti-big pharma to just anti-modern medicine. And the problem with big pharma, plain and simple, is capitalism. It's the profit motive. It's the price gouging. That's the problem. Guess what? The antibiotics work. The vaccines work. The medicine works, but they're charging you an arm and a leg for it. So the answer is to nationalize it. Get the profit motive out of it. By the same token, what you're talking about for the health insurance industry, same thing. The answer is to give us single payer Medicare for all. Get the profit motive out of it. I mean, these people, it is a parasitic mafia middleman that exists for absolutely no reason whatsoever. You got 18% administrative costs. Meanwhile, with Medicare, it's 2% administrative costs. That's why there's been a million studies that are like, hey, Medicare for all saves us $450 billion a year and saves 68,000 lives every single year, because then we wouldn't have anybody who doesn't have access to basic health care under a Medicare for all system. So people are really missing the forest for the trees here to act like, even to be just beating up on big pharma. It's like, yeah, we all agree big pharma is bad, but the answer is to nationalize it. That's the answer. The answer has nothing to do with pull 78,000 drugs off the market and lie about them relentlessly. Like, this is the problem. They're not just anti-big pharma. They're anti-modern medicine. And it is quite interesting, isn't it, that a lot of these people who go down that rabbit hole, they never end up talking about Medicare for all. They never end up talking about nationalizing big pharma. So, like, you're missing the obvious solutions. These things are not difficult to determine. They do a study like every other year with the Commonwealth Fund. Look at all these developed countries and what their health insurance system is like and healthcare system. And every year we rank like at the dead bottom. We're 11th out of 11. We spend more than anybody else. We cover fewer people. We have worse health outcomes. People die much younger. Like, this stuff is not rocket science, but there's this
And I believe Kyle Kulinski is completely right. I totally agree with him here. We need a single-payer health care system in the United States like the rest of the world, the rest of the industrialized world. And another point on these people with the alternative medicines, and sometimes herbs and these kind of things can be beneficial to people. It's not like it's 100% alternative medicine is always quackery, or 100% prescription drugs work. They can cause problems and all of that. But like they're saying here, our healthcare system is so expensive, and prescription drugs and all the tests that you have to have and various other treatments through conventional medicine can be so expensive, even with insurance, that people say, I'll take this vitamin or these herbs or whatever. This cost me $30 or $50, whereas it's going to cost me hundreds of dollars if I go the conventional medicine route, even with my insurance. And that's how sometimes people fall into this trap. But let me know in the comments what you think about all of this with RFK Jr., with the polio vaccine. Oh, one thing that I meant to throw in that I forgot to say, Mitch McConnell had polio as a child. So he believes in, treating polio correctly. And he has come out and said to the Republican members of Congress, please do not try to fight against the polio vaccine. We need it. Mitch McConnell is a bad guy in a lot of ways, in my opinion, but he's not a lunatic. There's going to be a day when people are going to look back and be like, man, remember the good old days of Mitch McConnell? I mean, in a lot of ways, an evil guy, I believe, but not a crazy person. Where, these MAGA people that have come in with Trump are lunatics. But I digress. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. This is Chris on Culture. I will see you in the next video.